What is this? What we have here is the latest Mercedes-Benz EQE, and what this is a mid-size electric vehicle by Mercedes-Benz, with the EQS being the representing the more premium luxury executive version of essentially the same vehicle. Now, from the driver's seat, we're going to explain what that feels like. We're going to go for a drive at the very end, but before we do that, we're going to give you the walk, the talk, outside, inside of this vehicle, some of the quirks, the features, and things I did not love about this particular vehicle. And we might even give you a quick quality experience on this vehicle. We'll talk about, to start out with, some of the technicalities of this vehicle. At the end, why you may want to buy this particular vehicle. Let's get into it now. So what we have here is Mercedes-Benz brand new latest EQE 350. That's right, and it's the 4MATIC version. That means it's the all-wheel drive, and you can get this in a variety of different transformational type pieces. You can get the base model rear-wheel drive, of course single motor, or you can get this version, which is the 4MATIC, drives power both to the rear as well as the front, and this is the 4MATIC version, gives you all-wheel drive. This does give you a collective output of 292 horsepower regardless of which drive you go. You can also get an EQE 500 and as well AMG versions. This one does come equipped with the AMG packaging, and you'll notice it has 21-inch wheels all the way around the corners. Now, we also want to talk about some of the incidentals with this vehicle. Yes, it has about a 300-mile range on this vehicle, and we'll test some of that out when we go for a drive in this vehicle. But on top of it, there have been some reductions in cost-cutting measures with this vehicle relative to the EQS. One, for example, is the rear subframe is all aluminum, where in the EQS, the subframe on the front is also aluminum, but in this case, they went with the carbon steel setup. There will be small marginal changes from the EQE from the EQS, as this vehicle is slightly scaled down from the EQS, and naturally, they're going to cut a few costs here and there, because this vehicle, to a lot of people that I spoke to, represent a much better value proposition, because you're getting the vast majority of the tech, the interior feel that you're getting in the EQS, but you're doing it at tens of thousands of dollars less. But let's dive right in and talk about some of the exterior quirks and features of this vehicle. I want to show you how this all goes. Now, in typical Mercedes fashion, you're going to be shocked and delighted with a whole host of technology, and a lot of it is done through this new key fob. What you're getting is a key fob, 3 basic functions. Number one, you can unlock the vehicle in a couple of ways. You can either press a button, unlock, and you'll notice everything opens ready for your departure. And naturally, you notice this is normally when you lock it, press and hold, and that locks up, and the mirrors fold away as well. So clearly a very simplistic setup. Now, also with this key fob, you can throw this in your pocket right down there, and you can also, through proximity, press and it'll open itself as well. You'll notice you have a great little Mercedes-Benz script on the door handles. Everything is absolutely nicely crafted. I have to give it to Mercedes-Benz. Things have changed in some of the price point vehicles that I found in Mercedes-Benz, like our C300, does feel a little fragile, but so far this vehicle does feel like it's built like a vault. So let's take this from the top on the exterior, shall we? First of all, let's talk about, I noticed this covered with a lot of plastic, which is great, because when you'll notice, a lot of SUV drivers tend to use their vehicles every single day. It doesn't matter if it's snowy or rainy or summer, to get the kidlings to school. Of course, as being a Mercedes-Benz, you've probably got executive clients riding along with you in some cases. Regardless, suffice it to say, you want a vehicle that can handle the tough conditions, as you're noticing all the snow and ice and gravel that they throw on the roads. But you'll notice these wheels are 21-inch rims here, and you'll notice also we do have an AMG package here. Now, these rims are certainly unique, and they do have a little bit more of an aerodynamic look, not as hideous as some of the older original generation. Remember the Honda Insight, where they pretty much cover up, or even Tesla, where they put these large hubcap covers over what would be normally a beautiful wheel? Mercedes partially gave you that look with these extended flares in here, but it's not the best looking rim, if we're being honest. Now, down here, all of this hardware and plastic is great, because you'll know this collection of salt and gravel and debris in here in the winter. If you're living in the north climates, Canada, US, you're gonna find you get a lot of this kind of junk as they put that on the road. This holds up very well. You get this beautiful chrome detail along here as well, and lots of great styling accent here. And as you cycle to the front, you'll notice lots more of this plastic, and the headlights. Absolutely the latest and greatest from Mercedes-Benz, definitely has a unique look. Now, here's a detail I'm not in love with. Now, what was Mercedes thinking? But it's certainly like almost every other electric vehicle, they come up with something more unique. And since there's no need for a radiator, you don't need all of those slots and slats. So this is a giveaway that you're driving an electric vehicle, and this vehicle is very aerodynamic, which is certainly going to help some of its economy or battery power. You do get the classic late model design language by Mercedes-Benz. Of course, you have all of this detail tucked in there, and of course, naturally, your plug-in action. This is the EQE, as a friendly reminder, and the fold-away mirrors are absolutely delightful. Now you get all this beautiful chrome detail, this brushed aluminum. It does feel high quality, and nothing really has any rough edges or sharp edges to it. Actually is wrapped very, very nicely, and it's a sign that they are focused again a little bit more on attention to detail. You'll notice the rubber here does prevent wind noise, does keep moisture out, and certainly does go a long way to keep things quiet overall. And of course, as we look in the back here, you'll notice classic, this is the SUV, not the sedan. We do have the hatchback, we'll show you that here shortly, but you do have a very sloped look. I do love the looks of it. It does look sporty and aggressive. This here at the back, you get the LED taillights, and naturally it looks very much what you're finding on, say, a C300 coupe, and it's very consistent with the design language. But now you get a consistent light bar across the back, looks great. And the EQE 350 script, this one here does a backup camera, and again, as I mentioned, it's a 4MATIC, meaning we get the front and rear drives, putting 292 horsepower to the ground. Let's start at the back, shall we? The key fob also opens this, and it will close it as well. But you can also activate the lock by pressing the button here. It closes and automatically locks the vehicle, or you can just activate a close by pressing this simple button. You have some great details here. And as you look inside, there's lots of room here. You flip this up, and of course, well, guess what? There's no spare tire in here, but you have a lot of extra storage capacity here. It's great. Give that a good reach, and you have a pass through there for extra storage if you got your skis, maybe a little load of lumber, and a little hold here if you got some little package, a little ornaments you don't want flying around. That's great. You can also hook here. You've got a couple spare little hooks, and naturally you've got this great detail right here. You can use this nice little privacy cover or flip this back as you need it right there. Now what's interesting is in the back seat, let's give this a close. So I'm going to hit that, and that's going to button up, and naturally let's just go in here, and I just want to slide right on in here, and I'll show you. Other than the fact that we have this absolutely massive panoramic glass here, it's gorgeous. Now, I will say this. I showed you, I did a review a little while ago where I was sitting inside a Mercedes. It was the GLE, or the first generation of it, and I felt sitting in the middle like this, you felt a little gimpy. I mean, it was very comfortable in the back seats, but this vehicle is very flat. And you'll also notice, as you slide over, there's no hump in the middle because you don't have the drive line, you don't have a transmission, you don't have a drive shaft per se, and you certainly don't have this hump here. So it allows this easy pass through for your foot. It's absolutely very comfortable. You have a set of vents, beautiful, and naturally, if you flip this down, you actually get a set of plug-ins because let's face it, everybody is connected these days. Now these seats are a little more upright. I have driven the EQS, and unfortunately the EQS does give you a little bit more, recline, but this vehicle just does it very nicely. The materials are very nice, and I will comment, even though there's a lot of plastic in this vehicle, there certainly is in the EQE nice looks with stitching. You've got contrast stitching throughout, piano gloss finishing. Not everybody loves the piano finishing, but you do get this brushed aluminum look, more brushed aluminum. And one thing that I can't quite get used to is its handle. This is a quirky little handle. I'm not loving these all that much, because every time I open the door and I get in, and this is just me getting used to this, but just as a heads up, I'm always reaching for something. I'm stumbling and I'm reaching, I'm like stubbing my hand. It's there, and when you know it's there, it's fine, but I find often it's just something that is usually kind of, I'm searching for. It doesn't come that intuitively, if I can say that. Magazine rack there on both sides, and you get this beautiful light and this gorgeous touch of chrome here. Look at this, you look like you're in a spaceship. Very unique looking headrest, I will comment. And naturally, you give this a flip down, you do get this nice little armrest and pop that out. And of course, what you have here is a nice little cell phone holder. You can push that back, flip that back there, and you have seating for 3 in the back seat. Absolutely gorgeous here, lots of room. As you'll notice, tons of knee space. Now that seat's pushed up quite far, but you know what? I've got lots of room here, and I've got a fair amount of headroom. This SUV carries that back roof line quite far back, so it does give you a lot of space in here. Now you do get nice little lights here, side airbags, and this beautiful finishing. I will comment that even though it may feel synthetic, it absolutely does amazed me with the quality and the nice soft touch. Anything that you're touching in this vehicle does feel certainly upscale. It's absolutely a gorgeous unit. And let's take this to the front seat now, shall we? And let's slide on in here. And there we are, reaching for that door handle. That just doesn't feel that intuitive. So anyway, here we are. Naturally, we can just look around. There's a whole host of beautiful tech in this vehicle. We have this nice, obviously we have accent lighting here. What I'm gonna do is turn the vehicle on. You have a simple push start here, and then it lights everything up. Now, Mercedes is rocking the latest MBUX system, MBUX. It works very nice. Everything is very nicely detailed. You'll notice everything touchscreen is very responsive, and this particular screen is great. You can get an upgrade that goes the full width, but this actually works better. It's less distracting, absolutely wonderful. This is a little bit odd. This very much matches the front grille of this vehicle. Not the biggest fan of the look of it, but hey, it's there. It's high gloss, feels kind of hollow, but you know, other than that, you get this very Tesla-ish look here. You get this vent that runs the entire width of the dash, and you get this spaceship looking grills, of course, blowing the heat out, and all kinds of beautiful brushed aluminum. You can see that wonderful accent lighting that you're noticing right there is just giving this beautiful ambiance. I will say the main screen is wonderful. You do get the haptic controls, and just by a quick little swipe, what you do is you get this scrolling. You'll notice you can get different features. The beautiful displays, you can get understated. I love the look, sport, classic. You get the navigation screen, assistance, off-road, and service. Why don't we try off-road here? Hit OK, and now we have more of an off-road look to it. I love the design. It gives you a nice little gauge in the middle, tells you which direction you're facing, and all of the whole host of information. But let's face it, this is an electric vehicle, and it doesn't need all this fancy tech because all the tech is going underneath. We're gonna go for a quick ride, but I already drove this and I did identify some interesting features. Now let's fire this up, and I wanna show you some things that I found with this vehicle. It is equipped with the rear steering. Let's pull the seatbelt on, shall we? And I want to talk about that because this equipped as an option rear wheel steering gives you an extra 7 feet, trims it off your radius for turning, and I thought it was particularly weird. As well, you have the dynamic braking or the regenerative braking, which is quite interesting too. So as you ramp up the aggression, it actually pulls the brake pedal away from you. So it's a very strange feeling, and the quick steering is very odd too, but let's take that away and I want to show you. But to do that, first of all, you have your gear selector here. You have park just by pressing that. You have obviously reverse, neutral, and drive. So let's go into drive, shall we? And then of course it tells you you're ready to go. Now as we go here, and I want to show you, this is what's particularly really handy at low speeds. Now if you're in a parking lot, this feels very cool. I mean, I could turn this thing on a dime. Look at this, absolutely bananas on a dime. And of course, you've got the rear wheel steering doing about 10 degrees of rear steer on this vehicle. Does allow you to turn extremely sharply, which helps in these tight, aggressive parking lots that you're finding some days. This is absolutely a wonderful feature. And that's the thing with these EQE and EQS. There's a very synthetic feel about the whole driving experience. You know, with a lot of these electric vehicles, everything's driven by motors, electric motors and actuators, and very little mechanical feel. You don't have very much direct response. You know, whether it's steering, the steering is highly assisted. You get that over boosted turning radius because you've got that rear wheel assist, and of course the electrification. You get some strange sounds in the cabin. But let's take this for a drive, shall we? And I want to give you my driving impression because overall the interior of this vehicle is absolutely gorgeous. And I will say that if you're coming from a Tesla that has absolutely demented build quality, then you can appreciate what this thing's giving you. And it's actually giving you a strong 300-mile range is what they report. But I've been driving around for a while and I find that the range is holding. I'm still sitting at 97% on there, and it seems to be doing exactly as it promised. But before we go for a quick drive, the quick quality experience tells me that everything is built very nice. Materials are solid. The buttons are very solid and sturdy. Naturally, the haptic controls are nice. Not everybody loves haptic controls, and certainly not everybody loves the piano gloss finishing, but I actually don't mind it. The only thing, a word to the wise, the more the piano finishing you have here, the more you have to be ultra cautious, because you're gonna scratch, it's gonna scratch like there's no tomorrow. So you definitely wanna make sure you have a lint-free rag to make sure that you're able to wipe this down gently. Don't use harsh chemicals, and it's just a very sensitive material. Now this, beautiful, you've got the set of beautiful cup holders inside there. They're very easy to activate. Put your cup in and it locks it in place. I love that design. Again, push that, naturally closes. Glove box, very, very clean, and it's absolutely cavernous down in there. And the overall quality is immense. Driving here, it's extremely quiet. But let's talk about this. Let's go for a drive, shall we? So let's take off, shall we? We've got these paddle shifters, really more for effect, but there's some odd, peculiar sounds here. We're gonna go and drive, and we're gonna take off, shall we? Here, we're gonna pull the window closed, naturally one touch, simple open, simple close. I will definitely say this is probably going to be one of the quietest vehicles you drive anywhere at any point. This new Mercedes series of vehicles are built on an absolutely amazing rear suspension setup, amazing chassis design, insulation. I showed you some of the trim on the exterior, absolutely cuts out a lot of the wind noise from the outside, and the sound deadening is absolutely immense. Now here, as we punch it, we'll just give it a little gusto. Oh, not bad, not bad. Remember, it's only got 300 horsepower, so if you want to giddy up and go and you really want the boost, you're probably going to have to step into something more the AMG versions of 500s, but it does actually offer up what feels to be a little bit more than 300 horsepower. Put your foot into it and it's quite abrupt. So driving along, you hear this noise. There's a little artificial, I don't know, clicky engine noise, a strange sound reverberating throughout. Now, as we pull up, the regenerative braking is kicking in. I barely need to touch the brakes. As I coast up to a stop, I find the braking, just like you're finding if you're used to any electric vehicles, you're finding a lot of these actually do slow the vehicle down probably 80–90%. And the more aggressive you set it up, the more regenerative braking it actually does. So in other words, the more recharge it does on the batteries. Now you're going to have to plug it in. It's an electric vehicle, but it does offer a small amount of battery boost on your next driving experience. So the more aggressive you set that up, the better it's going to resist running the battery short. I will say, absolutely great. The driving perspective is one which I will say, looking out the front, is not bad. It's more raked than you would normally get from typical Mercedes-Benz vehicles. It does have sort of a sharp raked windshield, and the back, looking out, it's more of a porthole, if you will. Now granted, this is an SUV, and a lot of SUVs do have those really aggressive thick rear pillars, and this one really is no different. So you're gonna find that it's probably not a huge departure from anything you've been driving. If you're used to driving, luxury SUVs, they tend to do that. They tend to bolster everything up thicker, beefier. Now, here we go with the regenerative braking again. Very, very nice. I don't even need to touch the brakes. I love this. I'm slowing down, slowing down, slowing down, slowing down. 30, not 30K. This is great. I don't even have to really touch the brakes. So it's gonna really help your brakes for the long term. Wear and tear, you're probably not gonna use your brakes all that much. Tires, you'll probably wear through a lot faster. We know the extra weight on these vehicles I would expect, and they're going to be expensive. With a 21-inch skin on these vehicles, it's a Mercedes, you're still gonna pay to play, right? Does it replace a twin turbo V12 Mercedes? Not at all, not at all. But let's face it, I mean, things are changing, and the whole idea of what the new car market represents, and that's moving to more green energy sources, this is inevitably or invariably where the world is trending. Now, until the day comes where, everybody, Porsche, and, they're looking at alternative fuels, Toyota's looking at alternative fuels, and there may be a time where electric might be a sort of a stopgap till that time, but till then, it feels like this is just something we're gonna see more and more and more, and have to get more accustomed and more used to driving these electric vehicles and all the nuances. Very highly boosted, the steering, the throttle response, everything feels very, very boosted and assisted. And nothing feels very authentic, if I can say that. It's not like driving an old Porsche 911 from the 70s where you'd get that wafting fumes of oil, wafting fumes of gas, where your steering is literally direct. we've lost that, and we're not getting that back in this vehicle. Driving this vehicle does make the Teslas feel a little bit ho-hum. You know, a lot of the Korean vehicles that you're getting from Genesis and all those don't feel that great either. It does feel a little bit less authentic than you're getting in BMWs, like the i4, for example. It's probably a slightly better driving experience, but this one here, I think, isolates. It feels like it isolates you more from the exterior noise, the sounds that you're hearing. I just had a big truck sail by, like a big gravel truck, and normally that would have blown my eardrums out. I could barely hear it. So as you look out the back, you'll notice, as I mentioned already, the rear has certainly a limited perspective. And as you look around there, you're very, very restricted with the visibility, and it's something you just have to sort of get used to. Now looking out the front, you'll notice it's actually not bad at all. And the front has a fair amount of visibility, although that being said, it's quite raked. If you look at the windshield, it is very, very raked and very sharp, but a lot of that is all based to get your best fuel economy. Obviously, less wind resistance, you know, just ultimately means you're probably going to cut through the wind a lot easier. You're probably going to improve your fuel economy slightly, hence why you get these weird, awkward looking wheels. You get these weird, awkward looking front designs and these grills which have less gap in them and certainly less of that grate in there, and there's just less noise. Everything cuts through the wind a lot easier, everything is a lot smoother, and just sails through the air with the greatest of ease. I will say this is a breath of fresh air, because this is competitive with the likes of, you know, the Teslas, the Model X, because the X is more of the SUV. Obviously this does feel very much a slightly more refined experience. The suspension is nice, the dynamic braking is nice, the over assisted, I mean, that's something that not everybody loves, and I'm not the biggest fan. I will say that rear steering is a huge benefit, and I would suggest if you're going to buy one of these vehicles, I would certainly check that box for the rear steering and the all-wheel drive package. I mean, let's face it, when you're driving around in the snow and the ice and some of these nasty road conditions, it sure is nice to have that extra traction available. Now that sunroof up top is absolutely glorious as well, and you get full ambiance coming in. You get not just light for the front drivers, but the passengers in the rear. Just makes it very, very comfortable. And honestly, this is probably one, not to say everybody needs to get on the electric wagon. At the end of the day, everybody has a choice to make. I will have to say though, if you're looking for a luxury SUV in the electric space, I think you could certainly do worse. How does this compare and hold up against the likes of what we're finding over in BMW land? BMW is a little more focused on the drive. This vehicle is a little bit more focused on, I feel like the quality materials is a little bit better in this vehicle, and the isolation from the outside feels a little better in this vehicle as well. So it depends on your priorities. Is it more the driving experience or more the isolation? I mean, let's face it, if you're a business person and you need something to haul around your clients with, this is probably the vehicle that's going to impress from the cabin's perspective. But if you want to, get on board and go racing your buddies who own a Tesla, you might want to look at the BMWs. I feel like they have a little more oomph, although this vehicle does feel very, very nice. Now, with all of that said, the quality is top shelf. I'm going to give this certainly top grades for quality control. I don't hear any squeaks, no rattles, no noise. I can just barely hear the slosh on the wheels, but very minor. This vehicle rolls down the road exceptionally well, quietly, holds the line perfectly straight. And I actually like the tech. The MBUX system by Mercedes-Benz is absolutely exceptional. I would say arguably almost as good as what BMW is doing with their iDrive systems. And we know BMW is more or less the pioneers of the quality systems. They own the experience. This really is brought Mercedes-Benz up to a whole new level. The only thing awkward about this vehicle, the design, I'm not loving the grille, and depreciation. That's the big elephant in the room. We all have seen depreciation on EQS's, EQEs dump massively. Buyers buying these and finding a year later that they're worth 50% less in one short year. That's something you have to think about. If you're interested in buying one of these vehicles, I would suggest it's probably going to be for the long haul, because you're not going to want to own it for a short period of time, because if you're the person that's flipping, buying, selling, and moving these vehicles, trading hands every couple of years, you're going to find yourself eating crow for value. But I will say it's a very nice vehicle, And if it's something you finally commit on and you've decided, you know what, I want to pull the trigger on an electric luxury vehicle, you could certainly do worse. It's a beautiful vehicle, beautiful SUV, and certainly at least worth the look. 300 horse, all-wheel drive, all the luxury amenities. Maybe you don't need to spend the top shelf dollars with the EQS. Maybe this EQE is all the doctor had ordered. Well, I hope that summarizes everybody. With all of that said, definitely want to check out some of those other reviews. I have this great review here with the older GLE Mercedes-Benz, as well as if you're looking for another luxury SUV, let's face it, Jaguar has the beautiful F-Pace, wonderful redesign. You're definitely going to want to see that too. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.